So I'm Dean Beers, and with my wife Karen, we are associates in forensic investigations. We are a Rocky Mountain-based agency providing expert medical legal consultations and legal investigations nationwide in death and serious bodily injury in civil, criminal, and probate litigation. This includes fatal and non-fatal events, denied life insurance benefits and appeals, as well as family question deaths and all these things related. So welcome back to another case studies from our agency, Associates in Forensic Investigations, with my wife Karen and I. So this next one is about life insurance policy appeal. So these are usually through private attorneys on behalf of a beneficiary of a life insurance policy in which that was denied for any various reason under the criteria of the policy. So in this particular case, we were retained by a long-time client we had to review the photographs, records, reports that were available and that were provided to the insurance company. And from time to time, there's more, and we go back to the attorney and say, the insurance company didn't get everything, they just made a cursory review, which oftentimes is the reason for their bad decision on a life insurance policy payout. So in this particular case, we did have to get a few more records. There weren't that many more available because of the cursory investigation by the medical examiner's office and the law enforcement agency, which was actually the Harbor Patrol. And so, we were looking at this for the benefit of the widow of the decedent. So in this particular case, again, it was a boating Marina-related accident or death, actually. It was a type of policy that had an accidental double indemnity clause, which if the death were ruled an accident, then it would pay double. So if it's a $100,000 policy and say it was a slip and fall resulting in a death, or just any kind of non-natural, non-homicide, non-suicide event, so an accident, then that would pay, say, $200,000. If it were a $500,000 policy, it'd pay $1 million. Hunting accidents are common, especially through associations that support those types of things. Athletic events may be common, and then just your general policy, especially if there's any kind of risk involved where the person could die of an accident, and not work-related specifically, but it could be work-related with different causes. So in this particular case, the witnesses reported finding that the decedent was entangled in some mooring ropes, the ropes used to dock the boat at the marina, and he was with his head submerged in the water, which is pretty important. The scene and autopsy photographs actually supported the witness statements, and showing that the decedent had been entangled in the ropes and with his head in the water. What we also saw was the decedent was clothed in shorts and that they were dry when observed through the scene photographs. And that's kind of important to show that there was either no submerging of the shorts or time had passed in photographs in which the shorts had become dry, because it was a bright sunny day. So the autopsy report did not mention some important artifacts to the decedent, to the scene, including injuries to the decedent, and it did mention other artifacts that were there. The insurance company's consulting internal medicine doctor did not see the autopsy or scene photographs, and that's pretty important. I should also note that in agreement with the attorney we were working with, internal medicine medical doctors are not the best source for expert consultations on external injuries. They deal with other types of medicine, very good at what they do, but they're just not trained or experienced in this type of thing. Maybe a trauma surgeon or an ER doctor might have been more appropriate, but not an internal medicine doctor. So the only things that internal medicine doctor saw was the Harbor Police and Coroner reports. his review and report did not address the issues found just in the photographs, and that were very contributing to the findings that we ultimately had, and the totality of the entire event and the circumstances of the death. So it's important to have as much information as possible. The other evidence that we saw within the photographs and everything, including some witness statements, which did include family members, but also non-family members that were at the dock of the marina. Body entangled in the ropes, and the decedent's head showed that the decedent's head was at a lower point of gravity than his legs and feet. And that's pretty important as well. And it explains some of the congestion that we saw on the body when it was pulled out of the water and photographed at the scene. So in the total information that we had and the evidence that we had on this, um, you know, we found that we were getting a lot more information on the correct circumstances of the death, which was pretty important to knowing. So this next part is pretty important because that same internal medicine doctor referenced epilepsy as the cause of death. And that is one of the things internal medicine doctors may look at with their patients are things like that. There'll be other specialists that would look at epilepsy and stuff as well. However, the autopsy report and the death certificate referenced epilepsy as, quote, a contributing to the death but not resulting in the underlying cause given. And that's pretty important. And so this is a common error and should be referenced as the death was with epilepsy versus of epilepsy. Uh, and any other social history or medical history that might be contributing to the health and demise of the individual, but did not cause the death. And that's under what we call Part 2 of the death certificate. The direct cause of death is Part 1. Other factors such as drank alcohol, smoked tobacco, had lung cancer, but died of a gunshot wound, would be in Part 2. And we saw this with the events of 2020, in which death certificates were being written as died of COVID when they didn't have that. They had symptoms of that, but what they had was pneumonia and the flu. So they died of complications of pneumonia, and Part 2 should have then stated, um, tested positive for COVID, for example. So these distinctions are extremely important, but they're not seen in persons that are not trained to complete death certificates and read death certificates as well as autopsy reports, which is something we specialize in as experts in medical legal death investigation and our experience as deputy coroners and beyond that. So what was the total outcome of all this when we were done? It was determined that the decedent's death was due to accident, which is a manner of death, versus the natural that was determined by the insurance company, the internal medicine doctor. And that this was due to drowning caused by an unwitnessed fall onto dock mooring ropes and then suspension into the harbor head first. This was also independently verified by our forensic pathologist in this particular case, which is not really unusual, but for us, it's a little less usual, but generally speaking, not unusual for a forensic pathologist to be asked to consult on this. And that's because there was a huge medical question if epilepsy played any role at all. So having this independently verified was extremely helpful. On the appeal, the insurance company reversed its initial decision and found in favor of the widow, and also awarded full accidental double indemnity benefits to the widow. So we were pretty excited about this. It was pretty important. And that's why everything you can do in a case is important. All the evidence you can gather is important on that. So we were pretty happy to see that. So thanks for watching this video on other case studies and examples that we do at our agency, Associates in Forensic Investigations. On behalf of Karen and myself, thank you. How can we help you and your clients today? Contact us now. Email us direct to schedule a confidential phone consultation, compliments of us.